Gaming has been in an interesting place recently, with the rise of a particular genre of games I'm dubbing viral games. Games that you see blow up on platforms like YouTube and Twitch have millions of people either playing them or discussing them with others. From games like Fortnite, Among Us, Fall Guys, etc.
The f you say to me, you little
All of these properties had a massive moment in media that was experienced by people of all ages all across the world. Now, you could trace this phenomenon back to games like Slender and Minecraft.
Oh shit, it's a white guy!
But there is one franchise that without it, we wouldn't have a ton of big media games that we do nowadays. That being... Now, I have a ton of nostalgia for this series, as it was a big part of my childhood. I would say it was even up there with Mario and Pokemon for me as a kid. I have been with the series since Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and seeing it grow alongside myself is truly magical. I wanted to look back at the series to see how it evolved over the years. Hello everyone, and as you can probably tell, I will be starting a new series where I dive into each FNAF game in depth for you all today. Don't expect these to come out back to back, however, I will be spreading out their releases over the next few months. With that being said, welcome to the Five Nights at Freddy's Retrospective. The development of the first FNAF game is rather interesting, if you ask me. In 2007, 29-year-old Scott Cawthon uploaded the first video of an 8-part series on his YouTube channel, based on John Bunyan's The Pilgrim Progress, and shortly after, a game for it. Looking at the first trailer of the game, we can see his unique art and gameplay style. The game appears to be a 2.5D adventure game. After this, Scott started development on several games, some of which include Sit and Survive, The Desolate Hope, the most important one to Freddy's, Chipper and Sons Lumber Co., a life simulation game in the same vein as Animal Crossing. You do tasks in the game like chopping down trees, planting trees, and build a wide variety of things like lumber bots, totem poles, crab cabanas, and more to assist you in your adventure. When the game came out, it wasn't received too well by critics at the time, claiming the characters all look like creepy animatronics. Scott fell into repetition with his games, with all of them either being received with mixed or negative reviews. However, instead of stopping and trying a different art style or character design, Scott decided to double down and focus on that aspect of animatronics, creating what is known today as Five Nights at Freddy's. Unlike what would become common for the FNAF series, the first game didn't have all that much to show off before the release of the game. Only one teaser and trailer respectively, both being early on in development. Since the teaser uses an unused image of all three characters staring into the camera on the stage and Buddy running down the hallway who was swapped with Foxy in the main game. It seems that the people who knew about this game were intrigued by what Scott was bringing to the table. They didn't have to wait long, however. Scott Cawthon released Five Nights at Freddy's on Desera, with it also having a Steam release on the 20th, and the rest is history. The plot for the first FNAF game is pretty simple. You play as Mike Schmidt, who after reading an ad in the paper for a new job position being available as a night security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, gets hired and must stay 5 nights while trying to survive against the dangerous animatronics. Not much of a story when looking at things point blank. More about the story of the restaurant is revealed through Easter eggs and phone calls you get every night. At the start of your shift, you will receive a call from a mysterious man who identifies himself as the former night guard, who fans have decided to name the Phone Guy. Phone Guy will inform you about what you will be doing over the 5 nights and hint at some dark mysteries about the company. Mention of an elusive bite of 87 where someone had their frontal lobe bitten off by presumably an animatronic.
They used to be allowed to walk around during the day too, but then there was the bite of 87. Yeah. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know?
To what is in the suits in the back.
Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm going to try to hold out until someone checks.
More is learned about the lore through some of the Easter eggs here. The most important one is the newspapers randomly showing up on Cam 4B. These are the start of one of the most important parts of the entire FNAF lore, the 5 missing children. Across the 4 newspapers, we learn about these 5 children that have gone missing, the killer using a robot costume to lure the children to the back room, and that the restaurant is closing due to sanitation. One of the nice things about these newspapers and the phone calls is that they allow you to piece together what happened. When Phone Guy asked you to do on night 4 by looking inside the suits and the sanitation problem in the newspapers, you can reasonably deduct that the children were stuffed into the robot suits by the killer. This can also be supported by the fact that the police were never able to find their bodies of the missing children. So while it may be a simple story that FNAF starts on, it does set the groundwork for the future of the franchise. This is the first ever FNAF game, and also the one with the least amount of animatronics. It speaks for itself that the gameplay of Five Nights at Freddy's is pretty standard. It doesn't have any crazy mechanics in it. However, that doesn't mean the gameplay isn't complex with having to pay attention to the animatronics while managing your power level. This game is as much of a point-and-click management game as they come. Your main goal in the game is to make sure the robots wandering around the desolate restaurant don't attack you. This is done through a pretty simple and easy to understand gameplay loop of new information and response. The first night does this perfectly by explaining what each animatronic does. Bonnie and Chica are your standard enemies in the game. Each goes through a selection of cameras on each corresponding side of the building and slowly make their way towards you. Once one of them is no longer visible on your camera, they appear outside your door with this accompanying sound. From there, you respond by shutting your door and waiting for them to flee somewhere else in the building. They do a good job of teaching you the layout of the map as well as the structure of the game. One nice thing the game does is use audio cues as a sign that something has changed as an animatronic has moved. Signs like pots and pans being crashed together as a sign that Chica's in the kitchen. Or Freddy's laughter to signal that he has moved from camera to camera. It allows you to intake this information without having to look for it in the cameras, which are your main user of power. The power plays a critical role in the first FNAF game, as it is the main roadblock to you and winning the night. Everything that can be used as a foil to the animatronic drains power. From using the lights indoors, to looking at the cameras, to just sitting in your office causes power to deplete. This balance is what Five Nights at Freddy's 1 have a very satisfying gameplay loop. A good gameplay loop is a loop that causes you to go against the main mechanic in the game. The power doesn't allow you to close the doors and wait for the night to be over, and the worry about losing all your power causes you to use your main resource, that being the camera, less and less throughout the game. Now with the camera being the main user of power, you would think that simply not using it would be fine, right? Well, that's where a big mechanic and character I haven't mentioned come into place. On night 2, the phone guy tells you about someone or something lurking behind the curtain of Pirate Cove's camera.
Check on the curtain in Pirate Cove from time to time. The character in there seems unique in that he becomes more active if the cameras remain off for long periods of time. I guess he doesn't like being watched. I don't know.
That, of course, is Foxy the Pirate. I think Foxy is a brilliant mechanic and an obstacle to have in the first game. That one doesn't require the cameras all that much. Bonnie and Chica appear outside your doors before they attack. Freddy laughs every single time he moves to a new camera. So if you pay attention and do some reasonable deduction, you don't need the cameras for any of the main 3. This goes back to what I said about a good gameplay loop. As Foxy fixes the biggest problem and makes the camera a necessity. Foxy stays at bay if you look at him a lot. The more extended time there will be between each check on Pirate's Cove, the more likely it will be for him to come and kill you. This causes Foxy to become a major priority in your strategies of FNAF 1, as you have to balance keeping the main 3 robots out while keeping Foxy at bay. While it is simple with only 4 main animatronics, Five Nights at Freddy's 1 takes what it has and rolls with it to create an effective and fun game. If there is one critical thing about Five Nights at Freddy's that it excels at, I would say it's the presentation and atmosphere. This game nails the aesthetics and look of this cold, damp, grimy looking restaurant. Stains litter the murky walls, cobwebs everywhere, and wires were thrown on the floor. It all fits the rundown pizzeria vibe the game is going for. This is aided by the lighting, a balance of warm yellows and reds for the office to give it a sense of comfort and safety, to the flat and murky blue with strong dark shadows for the cameras, and even outside your doors to create this feeling of uneasiness and danger when close to it. The graphics and art style also really help to sell this disturbing and eeriness of the game. It has that unique Scott Cawthon old 3D art style while giving it a more modern approach compared to his previous games. It still has that 90s feel the game is going for. One of the best aspects of Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is the character design. Every animatronic in here is an instant classic that has that eerie creepiness to them. Freddy Fazbear is the most iconic of them all. I like the texturing on him, the matted, dark look sells the idea that these animatronics have been in operation for a long time. They have been stained and weathered significantly, while still keeping a level of charm to them. Bonnie is another extremely iconic design. I love all the little details that Scott gave him to make him look different from the others. The lack of eyebrows goes a long way to make him disturbing to look at. Chica is probably the most distinct of the main trio. I like that her orange flippers have a different texture than the rest of her. Her cupcake alone is iconic. I do like how you can see her endoskeleton's teeth, and that stare she gives you in the window is disturbing to look at. Foxy might be my favorite out of these four just based off of design. I like how slimmed down he is compared to the others. The rips and tears aren't too detailed or unrealistic. My only problem is the feet feel way too big compared to the rest of his design, but he's a pirate fox with a hook for a hand. That's pretty cool. These are by far some of the best designed animatronics in the entire series. Scott did a great job creating them, and I don't think he could reach that same level of eeriness these guys had. How could I not talk about Five Nights at Freddy's and not mention the cornucopia of theories and rumors this game had? Probably the biggest one being, who was Golden Freddy? A mysterious fifth animatronic that I failed to mention yet in this video. On one very rare occasion on Cam2B, you can see what appears to be a head of a golden colored Freddy. After putting the camera down, he will appear in your office, slouched over. This will result in a jump scare and your game crashing. Many people presume that he was a hallucination, as you could have both doors shut and he will still appear in your office and kill you. This could also be supported by the fact that putting 1987 into the custom night menu, his jump scare will commence with no warning and the game will crash. This is also the leading point in the theory that Golden Freddy caused the bite of 87. There were some other big ones like who killed Film Guy on night 4, as we can hear audio cues that cause every animatronic to be accounted.
Oh, hey, wow, day 4, I knew you could do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm going to try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
Another big theory was that Foxy was the cause of the bite of 87 instead of Golden Freddy, as it appeared that his jaw was broken and that Pirate's Cove is marked with an out of order sign to the identity of the mysterious Fritz Smith of Night 7. Editing me here, just want to let you know that I got this fact completely wrong. Fritz Smith was in the second FNAF game, not the first one. I don't know how this got past me up until the editing process right now. But yeah, as you can clearly tell, I'm really good at my research. And people thinking that he could have been the secret killer, and even the cupcake in the office is a secret camera. There was also several rumors about this game. Not as many compared to the number of theories going around, but still a valid amount. The biggest one was Sparky the dog. It was a pretty sound rumor that had people convinced. He would rarely show up in the corner of the backstage camera by the door. It was claimed to be a non-violent animatronic that most players could have simply missed in the heat of the moment. This has since been revealed to be a fake, as there are no files in the game of Sparky anywhere. There is also a rumor that putting 666 into the custom night menu would unlock the kitchen camera. Yeah, most people were pretty dumb back in 2014. Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is such a fun game to go back to nowadays. With everything we know about the lore and series, it's fun to go back to the first game and see all the breadcrumbs being set up for later entries to fill in the blanks of. I have a ton of nostalgia for this game, and I will always look forward to going back to it. I decided for this retrospective series, I would pick each game I talk about onto a tier list against each other to see how they compare. For Five Nights at Freddy's 1, I will be giving this game a firm S tier. It has some of the best atmosphere and character designs in the entire series, and is a great game to start the franchise with. That brings us to the end of this video. As you can probably see, this took a lot of time to make for you guys. You can tell by the lack of uploads recently. I'm sorry about that. This video has taken me a lot longer than I originally thought it would, and I would say don't expect the next video by me to be on the FNAF 2 retrospective. It is coming, but that will most likely be a late January or early February release, although nothing is set in stone. I will try to have a new retrospective every 2 months, but that might change for some games. I hope you all had a good year. I know I did. And I hope you all are excited for 2023 as I have some big projects in mind. Hoping I can get that Banjo-Kazooie video done for 2023. You all have a good night now, everyone. I'll see you later.